Hi, it's David Gomm in the Stained Glass Studio. You know, we've gone through a lot of different steps on building jewelry boxes, and now we're back to the point where we're going to start doing some assembly. Now, if you remember back in the introduction video, we talked about the professional boxer, and I think you'll like having one if you use it, but I don't show how to use it here in this video. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. However, we're going to go on and we're going to start assembling the boxes, and I think you'll find this very good instruction. Okay, now we're going to start with our 3D construction. I clean my tip off first, and then I put the pieces together, trying to hold them at a 90-degree angle. You'll notice I'm holding low on the piece, and I'm just going to touch the top. And that didn't stick yet, so I have to touch it again. There should be enough solder there, and that holds. Now I just take it and shift it just slightly so that it's still more of a 90 degree, and I just run my iron in between to get just a little more solder so that it's tacked. See, now I turn it a little bit, put the outside edge out on this one, and what I try to do is keep the glass bottom flat against the wood so that I have a flat surface on the bottom. Now here I'm just going to go right across the corners. Did you see that? And then once again I'm going to go inside and just melt just a little bit so that it's tacked. Looks like I need a little more solder in there. There we go. You notice there's a little bit of a gap down at the bottom of this one. So I'm going to first touch some solder on there, and I'm going to lift it up and close that gap. Touch in. This one I just bend it back into shape so that the two edges meet. Now, when we're done, careful not to burn yourself. When we're done, this could be square or it may not. As you can see that it's slightly tilted, and that's okay. Because now we're going to take the top of the box, and it's kind of funny how things work out. Sometimes it fits inside of it perfectly. Sometimes it fits right on top. But we kind of line it up so that each of the edges are squared up, and I see that it's close but not quite perfect. So what I'm going to do is just touch right here on this corner. So now it's tacked. And then I'm going to turn it around to the other side, and I shift the glass so that it's got the same amount of space all the way around. Now that it's tacked on two sides, I can tack it on 3, 4, and that's pretty good. So it's not perfect, but it's close to perfect. Okay, now let's see, when I do the top, it's going to be the same method. Here's how I use scrap to solder my box. I like to place the 3-inch one. You know, I've got a whole bunch of extra cardboard. That comes in handy when I'm soldering one of these 7-inch boxes because it stands up quite high. So you'll let's see if you can see here. See, there's a bit of a gap here, and that will get filled later. But what we're going to do right now is solder each of the corners of the box on the outside. So I first put some flux on that outside, and what I do, I start with the outside edge, just touch it, then I start with the other edge and touch it and get just a little drip of solder, and then I touch all along, and you notice I'm not trying to fill it right now, I'm just filling in the hole. So the solder kind of swings in between the gap, and now I let it cool enough so that solder isn't going to continue to drip through, and then I try and touch quick on the edge and fill it in. And you notice I'm going back and forth because if you get it too hot, it'll start to run through. Okay, now that looks pretty good to me. So I let it cool for just a moment because I don't want to move it while it's still liquid. And I pick it up, move it over. This one has, see, there's a little spot here where it's shrunk. So I just go back and touch and apply a little bit more. You know, in this one, I've got just a little kind of a sharp edge showing, and I have to wait for it to cool. And so I have to wait a little longer to cool. And filled it up some more, but we'll add a little more flux here. That'll cool it, and it'll also let it stick better. Here we go. Okay. This is cooling right here. I guess that's enough. It just, now see, when I rub my sponge, I get a little gunk on the tip sometimes, and I have to go back and kind of coax it off. We're using 50/50 solder. The thing that's nice about 50/50 solder is that it has the highest, or pretty close to the highest, melting temperature, and as a result, it freezes faster. Okay. Okay, this is our final corner. Okay. Now, to do the other edges, I take some of these cardboard pieces and I stack them up high enough so that I can put the corner in and lay it so this corner is horizontal to the world, so that gravity will try to work for us instead of against us. When I do these 7x7 boxes, the stack is about this high, and but it's the same thing. Now, if you don't have pieces of cardboard like this, or if you want to try a different method, you can simply take a cardboard box and fill it full of crushed newspaper, and then lay your pieces in, and use the crushed newspaper to hold the glass up and get it to this horizontal plane that you're looking for, so that gravity works with you. Now, once again, we're just going to go same technique as the corner. I just keep adding a drop as I go along. Okay. This time I'm going to go ahead and let it get a little bit too hot in a spot so you can see what happens. I thought that by now I would have had one happen naturally, but I just must be too good. Alright, so let's say we've got all this done and we're coming back and filling it, and we stay on too long. You see how that dripped right through? So what you do is you just go away from it. And it dripped through right there. If you have a trouble with a lot of dripping, there are two things you can do. Either you can rub the iron on the sponge several times to cool it down, or you can take your rheostat and turn it down a little bit. We've got ours running on full heat. And sometimes on this type of work you may want to adjust back. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these other two sides, and then I'll show you how to solder the inside of the box. All right, now we've finished the outside of both the box and the lid. Now I did want to tell you that before I soldered the lid, once I had the 3D pieces tacked together, I went ahead and fit the two box pieces together to make sure that they were actually going to fit, and then I finished this up. Now I'm ready to start soldering the inside of the box. You'll see that we've got plenty of solder inside there, and so we just take our iron and run it along and then pull that extra bead right out and drop it. And now I'm going to run it along here. We're just making a nice bead, When I get to the corner, I turn and come out, and see how much extra comes out of there? Okay, now I can tip it. By the way, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to stop, was so now I just have to come along the back here. But I wanted to stop and let it cool. You find that your fingers get kind of tender if you don't give it time to cool off between steps. Okay. It's heating up pretty good. Okay, so we just run it along. See, that's just not too bad. It's because we tinned everything, there's a nice coating of solder on every place. Just pull that out. Just spot there. Okay, so that's the interior of the box. Might as well go ahead with the lid now. I start on the one edge, pull out, run across, pull out the extra. Whew, a little bit warm. So, we've got our boxes put together, and now we're gonna, on the next video, we're gonna do the final steps, so we'll see you there.